So here's something we don't talk about very often. Enemies. Sharon Horne-Ellstrom here. What's she up to now? Documenting the journey of the transition from the brick and mortar corporate world of business to the online world of business. And in 2021, a little bit of back and forth. And I would imagine for the rest of my life, a little bit of back and forth. I don't imagine retiring anytime soon. Work is my play. Work is fun for me. So I will continue to do and serve and be here and be in the world. I believe that what we give out is what we get back. And so I don't plan on stopping anytime soon. So enemies, why would we want to talk about enemies? Why would we want to think about enemies? Well, as part of this round of the Get Up and Go Challenge, this is the 8th actual 30-plus day Get Up and Go Challenge I've done since 2020 and the whole pandemic thing. It was my way to give back and serve and help myself keep moving during a really crazy, uncertain time, as well as help other people do the same. And we pretty much together, because I'd like to say I did it myself, but I didn't do it myself. We don't create anything in a vacuum. Came up with a framework that we install in our subconscious, and that allows us to automatically, as easy as breathing, deal with challenges and difficulties and adversities and setbacks and roadblocks and change as easily as breathing. It becomes automatic because we have a framework that is in our subconscious that automatically runs everything that happens through this process and pops out for us into our conscious the best action for us given the situation and the circumstances and our unique set of experiences and perspectives and etc. Well, we're going through this SOAP framework with respect to relationships. I like to and have for decades done 7 areas and aspects of my life. I set my goals around it. I run my life around it. I have my routines and rituals and things to make sure I'm going to achieve those goals long term. I have lifelong goals, not just, and then I have those broken down to 20, 10, 5, 1 year, and then down to month, a week, daily. So single daily actions that will lead me toward the goals for each of the higher, longer, bigger chunks of and periods of time. And as part of that, those 7, I've done the 7 areas and aspects of our life: physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, financial, relationships, and contribution for 40 years. I've learned about them from Tony Robbins, who got them from Jim Rohn, who got them from who knows where, back in the late 70s, early 80s, whenever Tony Robbins started. I started watching him because I had health challenges back then, and it was something to do that I could do. Always do what you can with what you've got right now so that we're always moving forward and making progress. And then I added this year in April, confidence and communication, because I think they're 2 foundational things that help out all the other areas and aspects of our life. And so I set goals in those areas as well now. But enemies, we're doing relationships because that's one of the main areas. Health, wealth, and relationships, which means financial, our physical, but physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual to me can all be tied together with respect to health. But we did physical, we did financial, and now we're going through the SOAP framework for relationships, the S, the O, the A, the P, so that we can go through an example, we can try on it at home with tools that help with each step so that it becomes more and more automatic. And so we have a whole lot of tools in our own personal toolbox to call upon depending on how big a deal we're facing. People, when they faced COVID-19, needed an entire toolbox, the vast majority of them. Most people didn't have that toolbox, so they just froze and stayed and have been in this like state of limbo for over a year now. Even members of my own family have been in that same state of limbo. And part of, like I said, why the Get Up and Go Challenge is so important to me and why I did it was so that I would keep moving through and not get stuck in that state of limbo. Because I didn't want to. I wanted to keep making progress toward my goals and objectives, because we always want to make progress toward what we want, despite what's going on in the world. Because the vast majority of what's going on in the world doesn't matter for most of us. It's what we choose to do, how we choose to respond or react to that, and then make our decisions and choices. So during this 4-day stretch of the SOAP framework, I decided that the relationship that I haven't ever really looked at in the previous challenges, and I've looked at 8 different relationships in previous challenges, or types of relationships, was one with like enemies or difficult people or people that we don't get along with or people that hate us, haters, or people that we just don't like for whatever reason. How do we deal with those type of relationships? So yesterday we did the imaginary friend exercise, and I actually had a blast doing that because it gave me the opportunity to look at not just present relationships and future relationships, but I actually went back and looked at past relationships to kind of unravel and understand, since it's not an area I've really put much attention into ever, because I don't feel like I've had a lot of enemies. I really don't. But as I go back through my past, I look at situations where they were difficult people. There were people that disliked me intensely. Now they're called haters, but there were people like that in my past. And I wanted to go back and unravel and speak through with my imaginary friend, George is his name, by the way, what and why those things happened and showed up in my life. And I had a lot of really interesting epiphanies and aha moments from that in terms of the past. And situations that show up in my life are there to show me something. Things happen, I believe things happen for a reason, and they happen to us, and they're good things and bad things, and traumatic things and awesome things, but they're all to show us something. And it's usually to show us something about ourselves. That was my realization yesterday. It isn't to show me something about the other person or the situation. It's to show me something that I need to understand, learn, see, become, make the lesson my own. And so I thought that was really fascinating. And I also realized that sometimes we have relationships with people that we think are for us and supporting us and our friends and our allies, and they turn out to be actually worse for us, more of a challenge, more difficult, and more like enemies than actual friends. That was my marriage. I hate to admit that, but if I think about that, I didn't even write that on the list because I just thought of it now. I mean, people that unsettle us or increase doubt, worry, fear, anxiety, and uncertainty in our lives, they are not for us. They are for themselves, because guess what? Everybody on the planet is for, lost my little gal here, my little redhead. Everybody is we have to all take care of ourselves first. And so they're for themselves first, but sometimes we assume that they're for us and they're on our side, and sometimes they are, and sometimes they aren't. So we can't assume. And then going to the future, it was interesting. Things that I hadn't really thought about with respect to enemies or difficult people and why they show up in our lives, or difficult situations, why they show up in our lives. But I think they're to open me, and I'll just speak for myself, to open me or us up to learn something that we need to know, something that we need to see. There's something there that we're not consciously noticing or aware of that is important for us. Might not be important for other people to see or learn or know or understand, but it's important for us. And the other thing is that a lot of times the difficult situation or the challenge or the enemy type competition, hater type situation, it's not really about me at all. It's about the person and something that they need to do or express or see in me that they really need to see in themselves. It goes both ways, right? It's like a mirror. It goes both ways. And then also that sometimes we just need to be open to learning something from everyone. Every human being that we come across, meet, see, experience in any way, shape, or form is to show us something. We can learn something from everyone. So those were just some of my ahas yesterday. It was a really good day for ahas. And today we're going to do imagination and use our imagination to visualize possible options to get us from where we are to where we want to be. Because there's a gap that's always created when we look at our current story, and then when we look at the story of what we really want, there's always a gap between those two. Why? Because as human beings, we always want more and more and more and more. So if this is our current gap and we go from here to here, guess what? We're not there, we're not done, because our future story will continue to evolve and change and move and make progress. And so we'll always want more. It's just the nature of being human. I don't know, we can be satisfied, we can be grateful for what we have, but as humans, we thrive on progress. We have to be moving and growing and learning. And if we're not, we're stagnant and we're staying the same and we're deteriorating and dying. I don't know. I sign up for the living and the growing side, and I think that's That's the way most of the people I hang out with are that way these days. So that was our Get Up and Go challenge. Big explanation, but that's where the whole enemies thing came from. I invite you to think about difficult people that you've encountered in your life. And like I said, I went back and looked at some of the situations that other people would consider difficult. And I guess I thought they were difficult at the time. And I'm like, oh, I'm just looking at it from a whole new, different perspective with a whole fresh set of eyes saying, okay, well, yeah, that was pretty crazy, awful at the time. But why was it happening, and what wasn't I seeing that I absolutely positively needed to see and to open my eyes so that I would make different choices or different decisions that were more in alignment with what I really needed for my life. And that's happened in all the areas and aspects of my life where I didn't want to see things emotionally because I wasn't happy with certain aspects and areas of my life, or I didn't want to see things in relationships, and I guess enemies are relationships, or in my physical well-being. I wasn't necessarily taking care of myself at certain times during my life, and that wasn't there were things that were coming into my life, people, places, things, situations that were showing me like flashing lights. Stop, change your ways, change what you're doing, change what you're thinking, change what you're feeling. So sometimes our enemies can actually be our friends because they help us to see what it is that we need to see. Our annual challenge today, Do One Thing Every Day That Centers You, our little book that we're using for our All About You 365-Day Challenge, was about service. I love this one. It was about service is the rent that you pay for your room on this earth. I thought that was awesome. Never thought about it that way, but what we put out into the world is our payment for being a human, for being on the planet. So I thought that was pretty fun. Supersize Your Business today was about getting off on the wrong foot, and again, kind of handling difficult people. What do you do? And I shared 3 tips and 3 strategies you can use when you break trust, when you get off on the wrong foot, when you butt heads, when you make a bad first impression. What do you do? And it's being a good human. We don't all initially make the great first impression, and again, it's usually not about the other person. It's usually about something that's going on with us. We've got a flat tire on the way to the meeting. We're late. We didn't get any sleep for the last few days. Whatever it is, that's on us. It's not on the other person. So sometimes we get off on the wrong foot, but there are ways to come back from that if it's really an important relationship. Sometimes you just don't click with people, and it doesn't matter because you're never going to see them again. And that's just to remind us that there's diversity and differences among all of us on the planet, and we're not for everybody, and everybody isn't for us. We'd be overwhelmed if we had to deal with 7.5, 8 billion people. So some people will love us, some people will hate us. Most people are in the middle and are more concerned with themselves than us. So we don't really need to worry about it. We just need to look for the people that we're here to serve and the people that are here to be in our lives. Those are the things I'm working on today. Sleepover with my amazing 6-year-old granddaughter who has a cough and is not feeling well and will be waking up very soon. So I'm going to say sayonara, auf Wiedersehen, tschüss, whatever, goodbye. Have an awesome day. If I can help you in any way, any questions, ask. Otherwise, I'll be with you tomorrow just to pop in and let you know what I'm doing as I'm making my business transitions and business transactions, what's working, what's not working, things like topics that come up that I am having new ideas about that I haven't really thought about, maybe not ever before. I don't know that I've ever consciously stepped back and thought about the topic of, enemies, competitors. Competitors, yes, because we think about competitors pretty constantly and pretty consistently with respect to our businesses. But, haters, pretty much just ignore them these days. Gotten through my feeling bad about what other people said about me, a long time ago. And after you have some funny haters and you realize it's just about them, not you, it doesn't bother you anymore. And I think that's the position we want to get to with respect to enemies or haters. It's like they just really, really don't matter in our life. All right, have a great day. Again, questions, ask. Otherwise, I'll be with you tomorrow.